The first jolt hit her finger, and she shrieked so loud that even the crows fled from my old oak tree. I'm telling you, I nearly spit out my morning coffee, watching from the porch as Karen staggered backward, clutching her hands and staring at my freshly installed fence like it had stabbed her in the back. Right then, I knew this neighborhood war of wires, wills, and egos had just leveled up into a whole new game, and somehow I was smack in the middle of it. But let me back up a sec, because this didn't start with electricity. It started earlier that day, just before dawn, with the kind of quiet that makes you think maybe, just maybe, peace might hold for once. I stepped outside, mug in hand, and walked the edge of my property, and there was my fence line, slashed again. Wires cut clean through, same as always. Not the work of some clumsy kid, but the signature of a vandal who planned every move. And when I leaned down, inspecting the cuts, I recognized her style, precise, vengeful, and somehow more personal each time. You ever have one of those moments where you're not angry, just clear? Like something snaps, but in a good way? That was me, right then, standing up in the cool morning air, taking in the view of my ranch, a place that used to feel like home before Karen decided my existence was some kind of threat to her reign. Every memory came flooding back as I walked the wrecked fence. The looks she'd shoot my way, the complaints she'd file, the sticky notes about community standards and aesthetic violations she'd slap on my gate. Her way of saying she wanted control, plain and simple. First time she cut my wires, I fixed them, hoping maybe patience would wear her down. Instead, I learned patience just gave her more room to run wild. So that morning, I did something different. I called up Jalen, my old friend the electrician. He owed me a favor, and told him it was time for an upgrade, not just another repair. Jalen showed up with that. You're kidding, right? Look, but one glance at the damage, and he was in, like a soldier suiting up for battle. We spent the next few hours installing a perfectly legal, low-voltage electric fence. Every sign posted, every regulation checked and double-checked. I wanted to make sure if the HOA or Karen came sniffing around, they'd choke on their own paperwork before finding a loophole. The neighbors, well, they peeked through curtains, trying not to get caught watching. Most of them didn't say a word. Karen had made sure everyone knew what happened to folks who crossed her, but I saw a few small nods here and there. Even silence can feel like support when the air is thick with fear. By the time we finished, the sun was climbing, and I stood back, feeling this weird pride as the fence hummed. Nothing fancy, just a low buzz, a boundary that finally felt like it meant something. Then I heard her, heels tapping, voice sharp as ever, marching down my driveway. Karen, arms crossed, face set to judge and jury, didn't even wait for me to say hi before launching into her speech. Illegal modifications, danger to the community, property values at risk. You know the type, right? It was like she'd practiced it in the mirror all morning, waiting for her moment. But this time, I didn't argue, didn't try to explain. I just leaned against the post, sipping my coffee, letting her rant, feeling, honestly, a kind of peaceful satisfaction. Because for once, I wasn't playing defense. When she stomped up to the fence and grabbed the wires, vowing to personally remove them, she got a jolt that sent her backpedaling, eyes wide, hair frazzled, yelling loud enough for half the street to hear. And that scream? I swear, it echoed all the way to Mr. Halverson's yard. He dropped his rake, peering over the fence like he'd just witnessed a miracle. Karen stood there, red-faced, shaking, more from embarrassment than electricity, I think, realizing that for once she'd found something she couldn't boss around. Before she could spit out another accusation, I told her calmly the fence was legal, permitted, untouchable, that it wasn't about hostility, just self-preservation, a phrase that landed like a slap, because her power only worked when people backed down. She stormed off, promising consequences, and I knew, just knew, she'd try something bigger. Didn't take long. Within hours, a formal complaint showed up, taped to my door, dangerous modifications, emotional trauma, the works. I almost laughed, it was so over the top. But behind the drama, I saw what was coming. She had connections, a loyal HOA board, and a love for bureaucracy that'd make your head spin. I braced myself. If it was a game, fine, I could play too. By noon, word had spread. Some neighbors gave me sympathetic glances, others just looked entertained. Videos of Karen's electric dance were already buzzing through chat groups. She was the star of her own downfall, like it or not. But the real storm hit that afternoon when the HOA called an emergency meeting. I walked into the room, tension so thick you could have cut it with a butter knife. Karen sat front and center, flanked by her bored allies, playing queen on a crumbling throne. She spoke about safety, threatened lawsuits, accused me of vigilante retaliation, as if defending my own land was some kind of crime. My turn came. I laid out the facts, permits, installation details, posted warnings, evidence of her repeated trespass. I stayed calm, and something shifted, a subtle doubt in the eyes of a few board members, a ripple of uncertainty in the crowd. Logic has a way of sneaking in, even through cracks in the armor of authority. Karen stormed out, clutching her pearls, and I realized this battle wasn't just about a fence anymore. It was about who got to write the rules. That night, the air felt charged, the neighborhood holding its breath. Karen, meanwhile, doubled down, bright flyers and mailboxes, warning everyone of the danger I'd created, claiming I'd threatened children, pets, community harmony. Her name wasn't on them, but her style was all over it. Moral panic dressed as concern. But something changed. Messages started coming in, neighbors quietly sharing stories of Karen's petty tyranny. Fines for flower pots, threats over holiday lights, warnings about cheerful backyard gnomes. It was like my fence had broken a dam, letting years of silent resentment pour out. Karen, true to form, didn't back down. She ramped things up with another emergency HOA meeting. This time, she brought in Roland, the new compliance officer, clipboard glued to his hand, eyes sharp with suspicion. Karen tried to get my fence declared illegal, but for every accusation, I had documentation, permits, receipts. The murmurs in the crowd weren't agreement. They were doubt. Karen's next play was to argue aesthetic harmony, that my fence ruined the neighborhood's look. I fired back with the HOA's own rule. Property owners have the right to secure their land from proven threat. The room turned. Karen slammed her hand on the podium, desperate, and Roland scheduled an inspection. But his confidence seemed shaky, like even he could see the writing on the wall. Back home, Karen lingered outside, pacing, phone pressed to her ear, probably plotting her next move. That night, an anonymous warning showed up, just more paper for my growing stack of documentation. Next morning, Roland arrived, acting like he was searching for a crime scene, but couldn't name a single violation. Afterward, word drifted back to me. Roland was Karen's hand-picked man, recommended through shady back channels. The web of her control ran deep. But then, a twist, video of her electric fence meltdown hit the internet. Memes, remixes, commentary flooded in. Karen wanted power, but now she was just viral. Instead of inspiring fear, she became a punchline. People started finding courage. A neighbor named Elise knocked on my door, pale but determined, sharing old HOA minutes that showed Karen's manipulation of votes, selective rule enforcement, and more. That evening, Karen staged a barbecue, plastered with banners about unity and harmony. She handed out popsicles, forced smiles, but the crowd was flat, until some kid blasted the remix of her fence fiasco, and the laughter cut through her act. She called in private security, 2 big guards trying to look tough, but when someone asked who'd authorized them, Karen snapped. The spell was broken. Folks started talking about a leadership audit. The next few days brought more cracks. Harold, an old board member who'd always backed Karen, confessed he was done covering for her. The city sent Natalie, a compliance officer, who started gathering complaints. Karen's facade slipped, her fingers shaking, her smile brittle. The neighborhood, once divided by fear, now split between those who still clung to her order and those ready for real change. But Karen couldn't let go. Late one night, I caught her creeping along my fence with a pair of cutters, caught on camera, caught by my lights, caught by her own obsession. She got shocked again, went down in a heap, and as I stepped out to confront her, her son Marcus roared up in a black car, ready to defend his mom's honor. Accusations flew. The police arrived. Cameras showed the truth: trespassing, vandalism, all on her side. No arrests, but the report was filed. The whole street buzzed with disbelief at her desperation. Now, the consequences started landing. The sheriff came by, reviewing all the footage. Turns out, Karen had a record of calling and bogus complaints. This time, official policy, not Karen's threats, ruled the day. Karen tried to reclaim her throne, holding one last emergency town hall. Her audience had shrunk, her voice cracked. Natalie was there again, taking notes. Later, Marcus came by, not angry now, but lost, asking if there was any way to calm things down. I told him the truth. Boundaries matter, and his mother had crossed everyone. Then came the real trap. The board activated an audit Karen herself had signed off on months before. As the investigation unfolded, all her secrets started surfacing. Irregular expenses, unauthorized hiring, fines selectively enforced, kickbacks to relatives. City officials got involved. And through it all, Karen raged, isolated, her power draining away as neighbors stopped greeting her, kids steered clear, and the air itself felt lighter. The audit findings sparked more. City and county officials found she'd forged documents, expanded her property illegally, even tampered with protected land. The deeper they dug, the more rot they found. Funds routed to vanity projects, playground repairs denied, while her own landscaping flourished, even a reservoir zone at risk. In court, it was all laid bare: altered paperwork, witness testimony, voice recordings, everything. The judge was clear: emotional manipulation didn't excuse years of misconduct. Karen was found responsible for everything from procedural abuse to land fraud. Her sentence, pending full review and restitution, hit harder than any public shaming. And when she left that courthouse, her gaze caught mine, but there was no fight left. Just resignation. Back in the neighborhood, relief mingled with disbelief. Gerald, a quiet man who'd once avoided the spotlight, stepped in as interim leader. The community voted on a new, transparent charter. Laughter returned to the streets, kids played without fear, and the fence that started it all now hummed quietly, a symbol of boundaries honored, not broken. But if you think the story ends there, well, let's just say neighborhoods have long memories. Karen's house was eventually sold to a mysterious investor, Mr. Caldwell, a man with sharp suits and sharper intentions, started sniffing around, hinting at modernization and security upgrades. And as new blueprints surfaced, the air thickened again with that old sense of tension. Maybe that's the real lesson. Power doesn't just vanish. It shifts shape, waiting for the next opening. But now, we're not the same scared neighbors we once were. We've learned how to stand up, how to demand receipts, how to keep our voices strong. The fence still hums, a gentle reminder that boundaries matter. And maybe the real question isn't whether Karen or Caldwell or anyone else will ever try to seize control again, but whether we'll let them. So let me ask you, if this was your street, your fence, your battle, would you have held the line? Or would you have let power slip by, just to keep the peace? Go ahead, drop your thoughts in the comments. What does justice look like to you? Ever fought a battle you didn't want, just to protect what's yours? I want to hear your stories, your debates, because out here, the only thing more electric than the fence is the truth, and it's about time we all let it spark.